As I mentioned, 38 U.S. senators have filed a brief urging the Supreme Court to reaffirm religious liberty. They're joining with the Attorney General of Kentucky, who's squaring off with the governor of Kentucky, Governor Beshear, who is using the coronavirus once again as a cloak to put the dagger in religious freedom. Joining me now to talk more about this, James Lankford, Senator of Oklahoma and one of the 38 members of the Senate. Senator, welcome back to the program.
Good to be with you again, Tony.
All right, this is, we're seeing this happening. I mean, this has been happening for the last 10 months all across the country. But some good developments here where we see the court stepping in, and now we've got senators standing unified in defense of religious freedom. Are you optimistic the court's going to step in here?
I am optimistic on this. The court stepped in just right before Thanksgiving in New York and stated that the governor of New York can't say that bars and bike shops can be open, but churches cannot be open in certain zones. They've done the same thing now to California, to the governor of California, and said you can't just declare that churches are higher risk than other locations, so I'm going to close them down. So, in fact, the Attorney General in California, Javier Becerra, personally engaged in this to try to block churches from meeting, saying in his opinion churches are more high risk because people get together and sing, and if you're singing, that's a higher risk. And then now this situation in Kentucky, where if you're a religious school, you're being blocked out on that. So we're pushing back in that. The court so far in California and New York has pushed back. I'm confident they will in Kentucky as well.
You know, Senator, when I look at this, it is so blatant. In fact, you made reference to this last Supreme Court decision where Gorsuch, Justice Gorsuch, in his opinion, I mean, he basically says as much, that there's no justification for this. This is plain and simple religious discrimination.
It is plain and simple religious discrimination. That's what it made so appalling in California, especially with Javier Becerra stepping out and saying if people sing and gather in places, that's a higher risk to be able to do that. And so it's okay to be able to go to the store. It's okay to be able to go to a bowling alley. It's okay to be able to gather in other places, but just don't gather in worship places because it doesn't meet his preference to be able to do that. It's clearly the issue here in Kentucky as well because the governor very specifically stated that he doesn't want schools to be able to meet, even if they're a religious institution, to be able to meet. That's a preference thing for the governor, but he still allowed other preschools to be open. He still allowed other stores to be open, other businesses to be open. And so, again, you can't just step in and say, even specifically as the governor did in Kentucky, religious institutions have to close because that's the governor's preference. Thankfully, the United States Constitution supersedes the governor, and people of faith, no matter what faith that may be, have the opportunity to be able to live their faith.
Yeah, unfortunately, you now have a court that agrees with the Constitution and will defend it, which is encouraging. You mentioned twice the Attorney General of California, Javier Becerra, and you know he is actually being talked about. In fact, not been talked about. The potential Biden administration talking about naming him as Secretary of Health and Human Services. He has a pretty radical record when it comes to issues not only like religious freedom, conscience rights, and life issues. This guy is pretty far out there.
He is extremely far left, actually, and he would be a very serious risk to the life of every young child in America. If they're in the womb, they're at risk with Javier Becerra as the Attorney General of the United States because he will, or in HHS, because he is going to try to push in every way he can to expand abortion in the United States if he were to be in that role, and there's just no question about that. He is one that would try to expand the oversight of government oversight of a private health care insurance, all the things that there's been so much work to be able to protect the rights of people of conscience and people of faith. That's not his preference, and so he has clearly tried to impose his preference on people of faith in California. I have no doubt if he was in HHS, he would try to impose his preference as well there.
So when you look at individuals like Becerra, that brings a really fine focus onto the United States Senate and these two seats that will be decided in Georgia, because that will decide whether or not someone like that will be confirmed to that post.
That is correct. So the seats in Georgia are extremely important because there's an enormous difference between a 50-50 Senate and a 52-48 Senate, just in what legislation is actually taken up, how we handle nominations, what the process will be to be able to go through for judges. All those things will be very, very important. So for the people of Georgia to be able to make that decision, literally the entire country is focused in on what's going to happen in Georgia right now with already early voting that's already occurring, or on January the 5th, the actual election day itself.
Very quickly, Senator Lankford, you've been working with the Department of Labor announcing today a final rule that upholds religious liberty, showing such a contrast between what we're just talking about and what's been happening in the last 4 years.
Yeah, it's a great rule. In the Obama-Biden administration locked down on people of faith that they couldn't partner with government if they're a faith-based institution. This administration has completely flipped that rule and said faith-based groups are treated exactly the same as other groups. There should be no discrimination against them. That's all anyone should ask. Treat everyone the same, whether regardless of faith or not.
And of course, we can look for an incoming Biden administration to reverse that rule, but it'll take them some time to do that. Senator Lankford, as always, thanks for being with us. Great to talk with you, my friend.
You as well. Merry Christmas to you.
Merry Christmas to you as well.